What are the lost strategies of Mas Oyama? He was the founder of Kyokushin Karate, forged an unbreakable will through brutal training and deep philosophy. Let's uncover his strategies for mental and physical dominance that you can apply to conquer any challenge in your own life. Let's go. What if the secret to conquering any challenge in your life wasn't about finding an easier path, but about becoming so strong that the path itself doesn't matter? What if you could build a will so tough, a spirit so unbreakable, that obstacles just disappear? There was a man who lived by this very code. A guy who became a legend by pushing the absolute limits of what a human can endure. His name was Masatatsu Oyama, otherwise known as Mas Oyama. He was the founder of Kyokushin Karate, and his methods for building an unbreakable will were so extreme, they've become the stuff of legend and myth. He didn't just teach people how to fight, he taught a philosophy of overwhelming willpower, a way of living built on total dedication and actually embracing hardship. They called him God Hand. He was famous for fighting bulls. There's a lot of controversy around that, but there are videos of him wrestling what looked to be bulls with his bare hands, and for taking on 100 opponents, one after the other, called the 100-man kumite. But the real source of his power wasn't just his physical strength. Okay, it was all his mind and how he approached it. So let's dig into the lost strategies of Mas Oyama. We'll decode his philosophy and show you how to apply this warrior spirit, the Mas Oyama mindset, to dominate your own life and face your own battles and come out on top. To really get these strategies, you have to understand the man. After World War II, a young Mas Oyama felt completely lost and defeated. To rebuild not just his body, or to not just build up his body, but his spirit, he made a choice that honestly, it sounds kind of insane to most of us, but he self-exiled himself to the wilderness, and he retreated to the remote areas of Mount Kiyosumi. I think I pronounced that right. Just by himself out in the mountains in Japan. And for almost 18 months, or 18 months and some change or whatever, he originally wanted to do 3 years, but I think he only got in a year and a half. He lived in a simple shack that he built himself, totally cut himself off from the world. At one point, another student joined him, and he couldn't handle it, and so he left. The punishing training, so the guy took off, so leaving him there alone again. His training routine was relentless, almost hard to imagine. I'm not sure how much fades into, like I said, legend and myth, and how much is real, but the idea that he did this is real. He'd wake up at dawn and train for 12 hours straight. He'd meditate while standing under the heavy waterfalls coming off the mountains, and as someone who's done that before, that is intense. He did this to make his mind and body become one with the impact of the water, and it is a spiritual thing if you've ever done that or ever a chance to do that. He used tree trunks and river stones as punching bags, hardening his fists and shins until they became weapons. He'd leap over fast. He'd jump over bushes back and forth 100,000 times, and lift up heavy rocks and stuff to build strength. He was known to be a pretty strong guy. And it just wasn't just working out. This was forging his soul in that lonely, painful place. Oyama was destroying his weaknesses. He later said, subjecting yourself to vigorous training is more for the sake of forging a resolute spirit that can vanish the self than it is for developing a strong body. So, mind over muscle. He's training that. He came down from that mountain a different person, a man who had stared into the abyss inside of himself, and he won out. And from that transformation, his legendary strategies were born. And from that transformation, we get everything that we got from him. So let's break these things down, okay? I've got several of them here. But strategy 1, the principle of one strike, certain death. If you've read any books or anything from him, you've heard that one strike, certain death. And this first strategy is the absolute core of Oyama's approach to fighting and to life. Ichigeki Hisatsu. Okay? Excuse my pronunciation if I get some of those wrong, but one strike, certain death. Now, this doesn't mean every move has to be literally lethal. It's a mindset, okay? It's the idea of pouring 100% of your power, your focus, and your spirit into everything you do. In his dojo, students learned that every punch, every kick, and block had to be done with their entire being, as if their life was on the line in that one single moment. There was zero room for half efforts. Why? Because Oyama knew that you can't expect a technique to save your life in a real fight when you're exhausted and scared if you've only ever practiced it half-heartedly. If you watch any Kyokushin practitioners, you'll see hundreds of them in a line doing what looks like very basic things. And physically, the movements are very basic, but if you think about putting everything you have into each one of those basic movements, it becomes very difficult. This whole idea came from his belief that the heart of karate, the heart of his karate, is real fighting. There can be no proof without real fighting. Without proof, there is no trust. Without trust, there is no respect. To earn that respect from others, and more importantly from yourself, every action has to be driven by total commitment. So how do we use this outside of karate or fighting or whatever? We live in a world of constant distraction. We multitask throughout our day, right? We give 50% here, 30% there, 20% somewhere else. We're watching a YouTube video while we're trying to write something. I mean, I do that. We're writing an email while thinking about what's for dinner. We're talking to someone while scrolling on our phone. We're doing a workout while planning the rest of our day in the back of our head. We're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. This one strike, certain death strategy is a wake-up call to focus on one thing at a time. It's a demand to be fully present. When you're at work, work. When you're training, train. Pour all your focus into the task in front of you as if your entire job's success depends on this. When you're with the people you love, really be with them. Okay, put the phone away and give them your full attention. How was the last time you did that? Like it's the only moment that matters, because it might. Every single rep when you train, every stretch, every breath should be done with maximum focus and intensity. Just imagine the power you could generate in your life if you stop spreading your energy so thin. Think about the quality of your work that you produce, the depth of your relationships that you'd enjoy, and the incredible results you'd get if every single action was delivered with conviction. That's the first pillar of the warrior mindset, according to Mas Oyama. Probably the most difficult one to do. Let's take a look at strategy number 2. Embrace the pain. Forge the spirit. It kind of comes from the other one, but you've probably seen this before. They make patches. Mark Divine was the first person I ever heard this from, but embrace the suck. It's sort of a training mantra for the SEALs, and I mean, I'm sure other military things, but Oyama trained in isolation for a year and a half. I think he did another stint too. No distractions, no comforts, just nature, his fists, and the fire in his gut. He did 1,000 push-ups a day, meditated under icy waterfalls, like we said. He historically fought bulls with his bare hands. I mean, it's all legend and myth, but, just roll with me here. The second strategy is probably the most intimidating, but it's also the one with the biggest payoff, okay? Embrace the suck as your ultimate tool for growth. Oyama's training was famously brutal. The style he's developed, Kyokushin, was one of the first full contact forms of karate, where getting hit, feeling pain, and pushing through it was the core of the training, core of the learning. He believed that real strength wasn't about avoiding pain or fear, but about being able to take the hit and keep moving forward. This is a big part of what I believe in when I think of karate as well. There's a concept in Kyokushin called os. There's a whole thing about saying os in karate, but we get a lot of that from Kyokushin, this os. And it's, in Japan, they don't necessarily like it from what I hear, but, for Kyokushin, they do use it. But it's more of a vibe, and it's a thing that they'll say, like, it means like to persevere, like push through, right? It's the spirit of endurance from Kyokushin, of pushing yourself to the absolute edge of your limits and then forcing yourself to take one more step. When your body wants to quit, your mind keeps going, right? That's the training. When your mind wants to quit, your spirit takes over. That's the spirit of Kyokushin, of os. Sounds funny to say it. Oyama taught that a person, just like a sword, only gets strong and sharp after being polished and tempered by hardship, right? Fire forges steel. He said each of us has his own cowardice. Each of us is afraid to lose, afraid to die, but hanging back is the way to remain a lifelong coward. Courage could only be found by facing your conflict head on, right? I mean, that's so true, right? How many times do we avoid dealing with the thing that we really need to avoid? And that just causes more stress and worry. In our world, we're wired to chase comfort and dodge discomfort, right? We want the shortcut, the life hack, the biohack, the path of least resistance, right? We want to take supplements instead of just eating good, healthy food. Oyama's philosophy challenges us to do the complete opposite, asks us to willingly seek out these challenges and get into them. This doesn't mean you need to go find a freezing waterfall to climb under, although it's pretty cool. It means changing your relationship with the things you normally avoid. Is there a tough conversation you've been putting off? Figure out a way to have it. Make it happen. Is there a difficult project at work everyone's ducking? Just volunteer for it. Get it done. Is your workout getting a little too comfortable? Find a way to crank up the intensity wherever you can. Intentionally choose a harder path to forge your way through it, right? Because you're not just into the suffering, right? But you want to raise your level, right? And the longer you do something that's more difficult, your level gets raised, right? When you feel that burn in your muscle, don't back away from it. Lean into it. See it as weakness leaving your body, like the saying, the old military saying goes. Pain is weakness leaving the body, right? When you hit a setback or a failure, don't treat it like final judgment. See it as a fire that's burning away your ego and leaving behind a stronger, better you. Embrace the spirit. Embrace the suck. When you feel like giving up, just tell yourself one more rep, one more page, one more minute. That's how you forge that unbreakable spirit. So stop avoiding discomfort. Real growth lives in pain, right? Get comfortable being uncomfortable. All the things that I can throw at you that you read on Instagram, right? That's his lesson here. Embrace the pain, forge the spirit, right? Embrace the suck. It's kind of awesome that he's sort of embodying that, and that's like before I discovered it, I like have patches and stuff that say embrace the suck, and I always thought it was neat. But all right. And hey, if these strategies are hitting home, you want to keep learning how to build unbreakable mindset, make sure you subscribe to the channel here. Ring the bell so you keep getting this. We're all about uncovering the principles of the world's greatest thinkers and warriors to help you become your strongest self. That's the warrior mindset. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at the third strategy, the 1,000-day rule. They say a habit is built over what, 90 days or whatever it is. But he's got the 1,000-day rule. It's a huge lesson in patience and perspective, okay? The road to mastery is a marathon, not a sprint. Oyama famously said, one becomes a beginner after 1,000 days of training and an expert after 10,000 days of practice. We even have a famous quote from Bruce Lee is that I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks one time, but I do truly fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. Let that sink in for a second. After 3 years of consistent hard work, you're just getting started. You're a beginner. Real mastery, the way Oyama looks at it, only starts to take shape after 10,000 days. That's like 20-something years. This is captured in one of his mottos, following the martial way is like scaling a cliff. Continue upwards without rest. It demands absolute and unfaltering devotion to the task at hand. It's like climbing a mountain, climbing up a cliff, right? Otherwise, I've been sort of taught this from other people I've trained with, and I know and they say, burn the boats. You probably heard that before. Burn the boats. Coach Divine's taught me that before. Burn the boats. Oyama didn't keep one foot in the old world. He cut ties, walked away from normal life, and committed 100% to becoming a warrior. No safety nets, no plan B. He just ran off into the mountains. It's crazy. I get it. But this principle is a direct attack on our modern culture of instant gratification. Okay? We expect to be experts overnight. We get frustrated when we don't see huge results in a week or a month. We jump from project to project, hobby to hobby, passion to passion, never sticking with anything long enough to get past the surface level of it. We quit right before the real growth happens. I can't tell you how many people join the gym to train. They all tell me, hey, I want a fight. I want you to help me do a fight. And then they disappear after like 2 weeks of training. Because I don't know. I think they can walk in, hit the bag a few times, and they're a pro fighter. It's just not how it works. Oyama's 1,000-day rule is powerful, okay? It's a powerful way to reframe your thinking. It gives you permission to be a beginner for a long time, right? It takes away that pressure of having to be a master right away. For the first 1,000 days, your only job is to just show up and do the work and learn. You're not supposed to be an expert. You're just building the foundation. So how do you apply this? Pick one thing, just one thing. It could be your career, a skill, your fitness, anything. Now commit to it for 1,000 days. Don't second guess. Don't constantly reevaluate whether it's worth it or what adjustments here and there, whatever. Just commit to doing it. Track your days. When you feel frustrated on day 87 because you're not seeing that progress you hope for, remind yourself you're not even 10% in. You're not even 10% of the way to becoming a beginner after 87 of 1,000 days. This isn't meant to be discouraging. It's meant to free you, to force you to focus on the daily grind of this, right? On doing the basics over and over and over until they become part of you. You probably heard, practice until you can't, don't just practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong, right? Man, that's hard to get out of my brain. But if you adopt this 1,000-day mindset, you stop looking for that magic pill, right? You work it out of yourself and you start to fall in love with the process. And it's in that process, compounded over thousands of days, where you truly become a master. That's where mastery is forged. So burn those damn boats. If you want to master anything, you can't half-ass it. Total commitment changes everything. It forces you to adapt, endure, and overcome, right? Where does burn the boats come from, you might ask? It actually comes from, I believe, if I'm not getting this wrong, Cortez. Yeah, that's right. The famous explorer Cortez. He came to the Americas. He brought his people over on some, as whatever the hell they were, as mercenaries or whatever. He brought them over on a boat, and he burned the boat so that they had to commit to staying there, so that there was no escape, right? They were here. We had to make it work. So that's where the burn the boats come from. So let's look at strategy 4. Train like you fight, fight like you train. Kyokushin is known as the strongest karate for a reason. Oyama's sparring sessions were full contact, no pads, no mercy. He believed if your training isn't harder than reality, then you're not going to be prepared for reality, right? Kyokushin earned its reputation as the strongest karate because it didn't pull any punches, like literally. Under Oyama, sparring was always bare knuckle, full contact, and honest. If you made a mistake, you paid for it. There weren't no helmets, no gloves, no shin pads, no soft mats. You either adapted or you got broke, okay? If your training is softer than real life, it's useless. That's his philosophy, okay? He saw too many martial artists hiding behind their theories and things, and rehearsed and choreographed drills. And in his eyes, that was all fantasy. Fantasy doesn't save you when your opponent is real, when the pressure is real, when the rules go out the door and your heartbeat is beating through your throat and your adrenaline is way up and your body wants to quit. Train for war, not for sport. That's the approach, okay? Like in battle, there's no referee. In business, there's no timeouts. In life, man, the hits just keep coming, right? It just sucks, whether you're ready or not. Oyama's answer was to always be ready. That meant conditioning your body to endure punishment and the mind to stay sharp when chaos takes over. He forced his students through fatigue, pain, fear, uncertainty in controlled environments so that when the real storm came, it all felt familiar. You'd been there before. I talk about this all the time in the gym, in fighting class and kickboxing, where you really need to learn how to be punched in the face, right? That sounds like so alpha, but like you don't want the first time you get punched in the face to be the real thing out in the I'm using quotes, in the street, right? You want to have felt that before, because the first time you have it happen, you're going to fall apart, right? It's just what's going to happen. So you need to build up a little bit of conditioning for it. Well, what does this mean for you? Okay. It doesn't matter if you're not a fighter. This principle can apply to anything that matters, right? Want to be a great public speaker? Don't just rehearse alone. Simulate the pressure. Speak in front of people who intimidate you. Do it tired. Do it with no notes, no slides. First time I ever gave a talk with no slides, it was tough. Want to run a successful business? Don't just plan for the best case scenario. Prepare for the worst day you can imagine, okay? Lost clients, burned capital, sleepless nights. Train yourself to keep showing up. Want strong relationships? Don't wait until conflict hits to find your character. Learn how to stay grounded and communicate while under emotional fire, right? It's kind of like therapy. Anybody I've talked to that like has successfully been to therapy or utilized therapy or whatever, it's always after something bad, right? Or they're at the end of their rope or whatever, you know, that's when they go. But honestly, you need to be going when the shit's not hitting the fan, right? So that you can sort of work on those things before they happen. It's like preventative medicine, right? Real warriors don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training. I literally have that poster in my gym. Oyama understood when everything was on the line, you don't rise, you fall back on how you've trained. That's how it works. That's why he made his training so relentless. There's no easy version of this. There was no beginner mode in real life, right? There's just the truth when the shit hits the fan. Once you've tested that, once you've felt what it's like to be composed when the shit hits the fan, That's when you become dangerous, right? Not because you're faster or stronger, but because you have experience, because you're ready, right? So, what's the lesson from this? Learn how to simulate pressure, practice under stress, build tolerance to chaos, right? Building resilience, business, relationships, or, battle. Find ways to train for the real thing. Put yourself in those scenarios. All right, strategy number 5, master the mind first, right? For Oyama, the body follows the mind. He believes spirit and willpower could push a person beyond what they thought was physically possible. I've seen this firsthand with some black belt tests that we do in our way of training in our karate. That's why he combined all the brutal and physical training with meditation and self-reflection. He didn't just build fighters, he built warriors. And that's the difference between just any old day job fighter and an actual warrior. A warrior's strongest weapon isn't muscle and technique, it's your mind. Okay? The body is a servant of the mind. The body should be a servant of the mind. Most people never come anywhere close to their physical limits because they quit mentally first. Fatigue will make a coward of us all. Fatigue, fear, hesitation, doubt, all of it is all in the head. Control that, you control everything, okay? His training was brutal, but it wasn't just to toughen his body. It was designed to break you mentally and then teach you how to build yourself back up stronger. So in between the hard sparring and the grueling conditioning, Oyama would meditate under those waterfalls. He'd sit still for hours and confront himself. Do you know anyone in your life that can't just sit quietly, like they always have to play music or have something going on? I know so many people that they can't just sit quietly with themselves, right? They don't want to confront those voices that of things that they have to deal with, right? So he practiced silence like others practice their strikes because he knew if you can't command your mind, the world will do it for you, right? The real fight is inside. You can have perfect technique, sculpted muscular body, and thousands of hours of training. But if your mind folds under stress, all of that is worthless. That's why he taught mental discipline comes first. So ask yourself, when the pain hits, do you stay calm or panic? When the fear creeps in, do you freeze or do you move forward? When it feels like the odds are stacked against you, do you fight or do you fold? Okay, those are things. Think about scenarios in your life. How did you come out? All right. So training your mind like you train your body. So meditation isn't optional, it's training. Solitude isn't isolation, it's sharpening you. Self-reflection doesn't mean you're soft. It's building your capability for survival. Okay? You can't just, hey, think positive when life goes to shit, right? You have to build that mental operating system so that it doesn't crash under the pressure of life, right? It means creating space in your life to process your thoughts. It means challenging your beliefs, putting them to the test. And you do that by standing by your convictions when others don't, right? And choosing your reactions instead of just letting your emotions react for you. Control the mind, control the fight. Okay? Strategy number 6. Fight every day, even when there's no one to fight. So his philosophy wasn't about just being the best in the dojo, right? It was about being better you today than you were yesterday. Every day was a war against weakness, okay? Doubt and ego and complacency. He didn't train to win tournaments. He trained to conquer himself. Okay? It was found in his daily training. That's why his students didn't just train for fights, they trained for life. That's what you should get out of any good martial arts program. It's not just training for a short-term goal. It's not just training for that black belt. It's learning what that looks like to train for life. No titles, no praise, just earning the right to call yourself a warrior. Okay? Because there's no finish line in life. You know, most people wait around for a reason to do something. They wait around for a reason to get in shape. They wait around for a reason to take care of something. A deadline, a crisis, or a challenge, or whatever. If you follow Oyama's strategies, don't wait. You should never, like, sparring is a great metaphor. You fight even when there's nothing to prove, right? You do this even when there's no big fight to train for, right? Because complacency is the enemy. The moment you stop pushing yourself, the moment you stop caring, you start to slip. We don't want to slip. The moment you think you've made it, you've already lost. You haven't made it, right? It's like the ego before the fall thing, right? If you're not improving just a little bit, you're decaying at that same rate, right? So we can't stand still. So that's why you need to attack every day like it's a test, right? Not just training skill or strength, but training your spirit. So ask yourself, do you train with focus? Do you choose discipline over comfort? Do you silence that voice in your head that says, well, that was good enough? Or did you put that extra little elbow grease in there to make it good? Well, if not, you probably lost. It's that simple. You don't need an opponent. People like to talk about competition, beating everyone, outworking everyone, crushing your rivals. No, Oyama didn't care about any of that, right? The only competition that matters is between who you were yesterday and who you're willing to become today, right? And that kind of fight's internal. It's silent, it happens in the dark when no one's watching, and it never ends. So when you wake up and your body aches, do you train anyway? Or do you go back to bed? When no one's watching, do you give your best, or you just kind of stand around and coast through? When things get hard, do you hide? Do you do something to take the edge off or to chill? Or do you just lean in and get to work? That's the real fight. The lesson here, make the fight your lifestyle, right? Fight for your growth, fight for your habits, fight for your values. Fight to be a better version of yourself every day, right? He didn't become famous. He didn't win just because he was naturally gifted, right? He won because he showed up with purpose again and again and again and again and again for 10,000 days, right? Long after others got tired and bored and distracted. Because if you only fight when everyone's watching you, you're not a warrior, you're a performer. Yeah. So, Oyama's legacy isn't just a style of karate, right? It's a blueprint for living a life of strength, purpose, and honor. These strategies are timeless, right? Just like all the great masters, everything they do is simple and timeless, right? It's because it comes deep within you. It's not easy. None of these things are easy to do. I'm not sitting here saying that they are. They demand everything from you. But as Oyama taught us, a human life gains luster and strength only when it is polished and tempered. Right? Fire makes steel. You have an unbreakable will inside of you, waiting to be forged. You have a warrior spirit just waiting to be woken up. So dig into some of these things. Channel that Kyokushin Mas Oyama spirit. All right, y'all. Catch you later.